Okay, since this episode is airing on the 4th of July, we are declaring July the month of mutant independence! Woohoo! So this month we're bringing you a ton of mutiny goodness with X-Men, New Mutants, more X-Men! Woohoo!
But on with the episode.
Let's go for it. Hi, welcome to My Comic Crush. I'm Vicky Sebring, and I love comics. So let's dive into a long box and see what we find. With me this week is my co-host, Scott Sebring.
Hello.
And this week, we're going to be discussing Uncanny X-Men number 143 from X-Men Volume 1. Originally published about March 1981. Title of the issue. The story for this one was called Demon.
Just one word?
Just one word. Demon.
It was probably like in all caps and everything.
It was in all caps, kind of drippy, monster-y looking. Yeah. Demon.
What's the lineup on this issue?
Oh, we have Mr. Chris Claremont as writer and co-plotter, Mr. John Byrne as penciler and co-plotter, Terry Austin is doing the inks. Okay, and here we go. I always mangle this, but let's try it. We have Mr. Tom Orzechowski. I am so sorry, Tom. Anybody who knows me knows that I can find a way to mispronounce or mangle anything. My apologies. But he's an awesome letterer. We have Glennis Ween, who is our colorist, and Louise Jones is the editor. And of course, at this point in time in Marvel, we always have Jim Shooter as editor-in-chief, at least for a few more years. And that's our team. This is the force behind this book. And a good team it was. I love this issue. I love this story. This is where you see the seeds of what Kitty Pryde comes to be, which is righteous. At this point, Kitty Pryde has only been with the X-Men for a very short period of time. Not even, let's see, say 139. So about 4 issues.
Right, so this is very, very early on. Was she like 12 or something, or 13?
She's 13. She will have her 14th birthday shortly, but she's 13. And this is really very much a standalone Kitty story. It's Christmas at the X-Mansion, and it doesn't matter much to Kitty because she's Jewish, but still, it's a holiday season. She's still taking lessons, still has her coursework and studies that she has to do. And when the issue opens, well, it opens with a flashback about Storm and some stuff that went down in issue number 96 with some bad juju guys, which will come into play and be important later, but you should check out issue number 96.
I remember 96 when it came out.
Do you?
Yes, I do.
Yes, Grandpa, tell us about the old days.
It was a while ago.
Well, I can talk.
Well, it's when the new X-Men were actually new.
Well, I shouldn't throw any old day stones at anybody because the published date on this issue was March 1981.
Right. This predates New Mutants.
Yes.
And to my knowledge, other than the new X-Men, from, 1975 or so, coming into the mansion and so forth, this is really the first time that we've had a young student since the original X-Men.
I would say that you are correct there, sir. Kitty Pryde has only been at the school, like I said, I believe she joins the school in X-Men 139. which has a great cover which says, "Welcome to the X-Men, Kitty Pryde. Hope you survive." We did see her, and we're introduced to her character earlier during the Phoenix Saga. When the X-Men went to her house, and she was kind of being courted both by the X-Men and Professor Xavier's School for Gifted Young Students, and Emma Frost in the Frost Academy. Boo.
Ooh.
But here, she's made her choice. She's made her decision. She's ensconced in the X-Mansion. She's learning how to be an X-Men. She's doing her coursework, working on her powers, learning about the Blackbird. And if those of you who don't know, the Blackbird was the X-Men's jet for many, 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 many years. Had been destroyed many, many, many times. I don't believe they currently have a jet they call the Blackbird, but to me, the X-Men's plane should always be the Blackbird. Just saying. But, that's the way the story opens is, well, first you get this flashbacks from 96 with Storm. She's fighting some hoogie-woogies called the Nagari, the Elder Gods. Scott Summers has left the X-Men for the moment, following the death of Jean, and kind of is going walkabout, taking some time off, getting his head together, and he runs into Lee, who is okay. I guess she's pretty much going to be his rebound chick, at least before we get to Maddie. And ooh, that was a bad decision, but I liked Lee. I would have liked to have seen more of her. I'd like to see her come back. I'd like to see her character expanded. She was a pretty cool chick,
But she was definitely rebound girl.
Yeah, that was probably her role. Friend / rebound, I would say definitely she's the first woman he kissed after Jean's passing. The first time. Yeah, so there you have that. But, basically you start with the flashback, and then you get into the goings-on at the X-Mansion. Kitty's working on her studies, and everybody's got this, that, or the other going on. And then they all take off, and Kitty's left alone in the mansion. And at first she's like, I'm alone. And then she's like, I'm alone. What am I going to do with myself?
Time to run around the building in your underwear and sing Bob Seger tunes.
Some people would do that. But what Kitty does is she goes down in the danger room and starts a workout routine, Not one of the advanced combat simulation things, because those you shouldn't do unsupervised, especially not when you're a new student. But a standard gym setup, just a standard workout type of thing. And all seems routine and normal and happy. Well, actually, I think this also might be the very first issue where Kitty Pryde kisses Colossus.
Technically.
I
mean, it's mistletoe.
It is mistletoe. But
he was pretty surprised by it.
He was very surprised by it. And as a matter of fact, they echo that scene in later on. Kitty is having memories in Astonishing X-Men. That first storyline written by Joss Whedon, where Kitty's coming back to the mansion to teach, and she's having some memory flashbacks. One of the ones she has is the scene from this issue where she is kissing Colossus on the cheek under the mistletoe and calling him sexy. Oh, the foreshadowing. Anyways, so, she's home at the mansion. She's chilling. Well, not chilling. She's working out. Because one of the things you start to see about this issue is Kitty's a smart kid. She is really smart. And she's a kid who applies herself. She's got drive. She's got also a lot of internal fortitude, as this issue will show us. And that's one of the reasons why I love this issue so much, is because Kitty's home alone, and what happens, as they do, A demon breaks into the mansion.
That mansion can never get a break.
Nope, and this demon is one of these Nagari, the elder gods that the Storm was dealing with back in issue number 96. He's like a leftover remnant. And he's trailed Storm's essence, scent, whatever these mystical eldritch elder god things do to trail somebody. He's trailed Storm back to the mansion. Killed a few people on the way. That's what they do. And he breaks in. And of course, Kitty's home alone. The intruder alarm goes off. She goes to investigate, thinking, well, if it's something bad, I'll just phase. You know, nothing can hurt me when I'm phasing. Well, nothing that she had run into yet. And she encounters this big baddie. And discovers that, well, actually, he can hurt her quite a bit when she's phasing because he's eldritch, magical, demonic, whatever. He's bad juju. And it hurts. Ow. This story is very much a coming of age story for Kitty. This is her first solo adventure. It's the first time that she encounters a problem that she has to deal with on her own, by her own wits and her own fortitude. And you really get a sense of how smart and resilient she is. I mean, people don't give Kitty Pryde enough props. Kitty Pryde is a bad mofo. I mean, Marvel Comics recently put up on Twitter. They had a question, choose a team up to save the world, and it was 2-person team ups, and it was like Iron Man and Captain America, and Power Man and Iron Fist. Just big names, but all guys. They give you 4 team choices, and they're all men, no women on the list. Now, that's okay. Don't get me wrong. The teams they were giving you, they were good, strong teams. But me, what's my comeback? Who do I choose to save the world? Can you guess? Can you?
Oh, let me count the short list. Oh, I wonder. Carol Danvers is probably one of them.
I choose Carol Danvers and Kitty Pryde. Carol's got the muscle. Kitty's got the subtlety, and they've both got the brains and the determination and the grit. I mean, Kitty she does not get the love she deserves. Don't get me wrong. She gets a lot of love. People love Kitty. I love Kitty. But I don't think she gets the respect for how capable and truly formidable she is. I mean, she is truly formidable. Her power is a very subtle one. You don't normally think that it's an aggressive power. And at this point, maybe it's not. But she's going to grow. She's going to get to the point where, bad guys can be speeding away from a robbery, and she can just pop out of the ground and phase the car and not them, so they fall right out of the car. That's pretty freaking awesome. And her power is in a lot of regards, her character and her power in its development remind me a lot of how Sue Storm has evolved over the years. When she first started out, what did Sue do? She turned invisible and she made a force bubble. She turned invisible and she made a force bubble. Now, woo! What can she do? She can kick your butt. That's what she can do. And Kitty is likewise. And here you see the seeds of what she becomes. Now, she doesn't have the training yet. She doesn't have all the experiences yet. She hasn't been ninja-fied. She hasn't been brainwashed. She hasn't been turned intangible twice. She hasn't gone through any of the things that she comes and goes through later on in her history. But at this point, you see the groundwork. In this issue where it's just her against the baddie, and she's still new and she's still limited, but you still see how truly formidable she is. As a 13-year-old, you see how how smart she is. You see her ability to deduce and analyze and strategize. And you see her grit and her determination. How she goes and goes and goes until she can't go. You know, she's not going to quit trying. She's not going to give up. And that's Kitty. Her evolution as somebody who followed her. Now, granted, I didn't initially follow her at this point. I hadn't followed anybody at this point. But I backtracked once I did.
This was a back issue you were able to find.
Oh, yes, and it was one of my favorites for such a long time. It's still one of my favorites. I love this. And it is because this is where you see her growth. This is where you see... Now, I should rephrase that, because to a certain degree in the issues prior, 141 and 142, you catch a glimpse of what she becomes, because that's Days of Future Past, where you see a future Kitty Pryde, who is also very formidable. However, that Kitty Pryde is also very different from the Kitty Pryde that comes to be in our timeline. Because in that timeline, things have gone really, really bad. And she's had a lot of pain, a lot of heartbreak. And the X-Men, while they may not be totally beaten down, they have been severely beaten.
Of course, we're going to tap upon that storyline.
Don't even think that we won't. Because I got some smack to talk about the movies. But that's another issue, another episode.
I'm going to tap a little bit on the Kitty Pryde, as you were saying, kind of almost not quite getting the love. You know, she doesn't seem to be on many, many people's short list of pretty awesome characters.
What's wrong with you people?
But I think, you know, even in the X-Men verse, as it were, in pop culture, as I'll put it, outside of the comics, she doesn't have a whole lot of exposure out there. And like I said, just very briefly, they didn't use her in Days of Future Past, the film, which she was central in the original comic. That's for another time.
But
I think one of the main
soapbox. But yeah.
But I think one of the main reasons people are probably not as familiar with her in the basic pop culture, like they're going to know Cyclops, they're going to know, you know, Wolverine and Storm and, you know, Jean Grey, and then they might know Angel. They're going to know the Beast. They'll know Jubilee before they probably know Kitty. And the main reason is Kitty wasn't in the cartoon.
I have issues with that cartoon, not the least of which is Jubilee, who is on my list. We have discussed this.
The short list of the not favored characters.
Yes.
But I mean, but to a lot of people, those are the X-Men, those cartoons, and that, you know, like I said, people would be more interested in Gambit, you know, which I still don't really know. I mean, he throws cards, you know. And he talks with an accent, but Kitty, because she in the comics when this comic was out, she wasn't in the X-Men at that time. She had moved on to Excalibur.
Well, that was because she had a bit of a problem where she had become permanently intangible and was having to focus on trying to become unintangible. But
I mean, she progressed in her character. She progressed into a new adventure. She went into Excalibur. Then the cartoon comes out, and they don't use Kitty.
And for a lot of people, that cartoon was their first exposure to the X-Men. That's what they imprinted on.
I mean, most of the movies will hark back more to what happens in the cartoons rather than what happened in the comics.
Look, if you imprinted on the cartoon, I get that. I understand that. That's your X-Men. I did not imprint on the cartoon. I was already firmly imprinted on the comic. So I had a few issues with the cartoon when it came out. Okay, I had a lot of issues. I could write a book, okay? Jubilee was just the tip of the iceberg. I mean,
so if you had a cage match with Jubilee and Kitty Pryde,
Oh, Jubilee's going down. Are you kidding me? Not even a contest. Jubilee is going down. Jubilee is Scrappy Doo in a yellow coat. Swear to God, Scrappy Doo in a yellow coat with some mutant powers and a bad haircut.
Wow.
Hey, yeah. I said it. I went there. I stand by it. Yes. Okay. Sorry for all you Jubilee fans. I am not one of you. I did not drink the Kool-Aid.
But now, having said that,
I
mean, do you think they put Jubilee together just really to kind of fill that gap that Kitty used to have in the group?
I think Jubilee was an attempt to update and fill the gap, to have that younger appeal for the audiences, just the same as Wendy and Marvin were on the Super Friends.
Oh man.
You know, you have that younger slot in there, and also to sort of update a little, because if you look at Jubilee, oh my God, she screams 80s everywhere, from that frickin' coat to her hair to the sunglasses to the gloves. 80s, you poster child for 80s bad fashion.
But now some people would say that Kitty was that when she joined the X-Men.
Kitty didn't have any fashion when she joined the X-Men.
No, I'm talking
okay,
about...
was she maybe the younger character for younger readers to identify with? Sure. You know, standard trope.
How old was Kitty when she started in the X-Men?
13.
How old were you when you were reading about Kitty in the X-Men?
12, 13.
And the demographic speaks for itself.
Well, why do you think they keep doing it? It works, okay? I admit it. I'm big enough to admit it. Okay, you hooked me with the hook. I gotcha. I identified. Okay. Sorry, it works.
And Kitty was book smart.
Kitty was book smart. Kitty is book smart. Kitty is a freaking computer whiz. I mean, Kitty worked with S.H.I.E.L.D. She was kind of coerced into doing it, but she was an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. at one point in time. Don't read that issue, by the way. If you come across Kitty Pryde, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., okay, you can read it, but it's not her brightest moment. Just saying. However, if you come across the Kitty Pryde Wolverine mini-series, which we'll talk probably at some point in time, hey, it's a good read. Give it a go. It's where she gets ninja-fied.
So, like, we're here in the earlier stages of Kitty.
Very early.
We're getting exposed, like I said, to her, you know, using her head, using her resources.
And just the grit. I mean, she's tough. Kitty is tough. You don't think she's tough because, especially at this period, she's being drawn as this little wafy 13-year-old with the wavy brown hair and the great big emo eyes.
I think the comparison back then was Brooke Shields.
Okay, perhaps.
I think that was the template. I mean, like, so we're talking about 81, 82 here. And the template back then, I think people were kind of comparing was Brooke Shields back then.
You know, and if you see her in some of her later escapades with the X-Men, and especially in some of her really horrible outfits, you don't think this is a tough person. You don't think this is somebody who's going to be someone to reckon with. Somebody who can bring it.
That's because she can be silly.
Oh, she can be very silly. And at this point, she is a kid.
Right.
Very much so. But here in this issue, you really do... You see the seeds of what's going to grow into be a mighty oak.
So now let's talk about the nasty in this one. The demon. Or as you said, the demon.
Demon.
The funny thing is that this character predates, if you look at the first incarnation in, you know, back in the mid 70s when it was first introduced. But in this issue, really resembles a particular movie, creature.
Well, no, let's let's address the elephant in the room.
Or how about the alien in the room?
Let's address the alien in the room, which Kitty even references that movie.
She says, that movie.
Well, she doesn't say it out loud, but she's thinking about it in her head. But yes, are there some Geiger-esque influences in this character design for the big baddie? Yes. But as impactful as Geiger in that movie was, I don't see how you could not have it seep into your subconscious whether you want it or not. It would be very hard to do something that didn't evoke some sort of response in that way unless you just made it humanoid-esque.
But it did seem like the unstoppable monster.
A lot of monsters are unstoppable. That's what makes them monsters. If you could stub their toe and defeat them, I mean, that's not very monstery intimidating, you know? The monsters who aren't undefeatable don't get out of monster school. They wind up in detention forever. But yeah, no, there are definite influences in the art here. But you can't really say it. The character is not a ripoff in any way, shape, or form. Is there artistically some influences? Yes, but it's its own thing. This is not an alien. This is an eldritch being, an evil eldritch being, one of the elder gods, the Nagari, who ruled the world way back when humans were still pink slime, thinking about maybe growing gills or something, or maybe cell division. They sort of ruled the world until things changed and circumstances happened, and suddenly they lost their connection with our reality and wound up in another one. And this is not the only time you're going to run against these elder gods. The Nagari are not aliens. They don't have acid blood. They don't have inner teeth that shoot out to eat you. They don't have face huggers that plant stings down your throat and burst out of your chest. But are they ugly, alien-esque looking big baddies who are really super tough? Yes, they are. Are they hostile to human life? Yes, they are. Very much so. And frankly, even though in issue 96, Storm fought a bunch of them, in this issue, Kitty faces one. But it's a biggin'. And it's still super formidable. Super formidable. As a matter of fact, the lengths of which she has to go to eventually defeat it, and the carnage and wreckage that is involved in her eventually defeating it, is testament to how really phenomenal the fact is that she was able to defeat it on her own.
I mean, she pretty much almost Man of Steel collateral damage to the school.
Oh, totally. She breaks everything. She fries everything. I mean, the school is still standing.
Kinda.
Mostly.
The insides aren't.
Yeah, the insides are pretty gutted. It looks okay from the outside for the most part, but the inside is pretty effed up. It's smurfed.
But like I said, she uses her wits, uses her powers to a degree that she can.
Because at this point her power usage is really limited. She can phase herself. She can pass herself through solid objects. She can walk on air. But she's not really at the point where she can phase anyone else.
Right.
Or large objects with her. She hasn't quite expanded and evolved on her abilities yet. She hasn't gotten to the point where she will eventually, where she can phase large objects with her or multiple people as long as they're touching with her. She has not fully realized her potential and all the permeations that her powers are able to be utilized with. She also has not had a lot of combat training at this point. While she has had a lot of physical training to get her fitness levels up and everything, and she has had some combat training, She has not had the levels of combat training that she will get to later. Now, in part, some of that will come when she is in the Kitty Pryde Wolverine miniseries, where she winds up being almost kind of body snatched.
But that's another story.
By a ninja. That's another story. But she gets a lot of ninja skills there. Some of that fades, but some of residue remains. And then it's built on in her training.
Anybody who's been listening to this podcast probably knows that you like Chris Claremont in his writing.
I love Chris Claremont in his writing.
So I was just kind of curious, what were some of the highlights in this as far as the writing that either spoke out to you or something that you think he captured?
Because this is so much, I mean, you get a little bit of the X-Men and other characters at the beginning, and you get a little bit of them at the end. But by and large, this issue is 100% in Kitty Pryde's head. Now, what I mean when I say that is, since Kitty is home alone, and she's dealing with this big baddie on her own, and Big Baddie don't speak English, by the way. You know, he don't speak anything that we're aware of other than "arr," you know, maybe. What you get the whole time through this whole story is all of her thought balloons. You are in her head the entire story. You really get an insight as to how her thought processes are working, what she's thinking of, how her train of thought is going. You really get to know Kitty on a really good basic level. And I love that. I love getting into a character's head. I love understanding them. I love seeing things from their point of view. I love feeling like I know them. I know how they would react in a situation. I know what their core is. And this is where you first start to see her core. That core of strength and resilience and determination.
Even while she's afraid.
She's freaking terrified. But a common misconception is that to be brave means that you are not afraid. And I'm sorry, but I don't believe that to be true. I believe to be brave is to be scared out of your freaking mind and do what you got to do anyways. To face the fear and do what needs to be done, even though it scares the crap out of you. You know, you may be wetting your drawers, but you're still doing what you got to do. That, to me, is bravery. You know, the carrying on. You know, if you're not afraid of something, well, then what's the big deal of dealing with it? Kitty is, at heart, incredibly brave. This is something that you see time and time again with her. No matter what she has to face, she faces it. She's scared, she's shaking, but she still faces it. She still carries on. She still puts up the good fight. You know, she still takes the ring to Mount Doom. She's got grit, and she's got brains, and she becomes such an amazing character. She becomes such an amazing woman. And these are the seeds that start it all. This is where you first see the makings of what her future self becomes. Now, don't get me wrong. I still think she doesn't get enough love and props. Occasionally she's portrayed very well and she's written really well, and I'm like, yes, you see her, you see Kitty, you see who this character is.
You get it.
You get it, and you're giving her due justice. But that's not always the case, and that's true with all characters. You know, it's just some writers identify better with other characters than others, and sometimes they get, you know, everybody's different. Everybody identifies with different characters and different things. So she's not always going to get the best portrayal that she's capable of. But when she does, woohoo! Yeah, I'm on board. Sign me up. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I really, really would encourage anybody, if you're an X-Men fan, especially if you love Kitty like I do, and you haven't read 143, or if you have, but you haven't read it in a long, long time, come on back, pick it up, break the seal, open her up, get in there and read this story, because it's a good one. It's so good.
I would even say for people who are not familiar with Kitty Pryde at all, it's not a bad one to start with.
It's a great primer because, like I said, you're going to, even though this is not anywhere near where she is nowadays, it's, you see the start of the journey. This is the beginning of the yellow brick road that is Kitty Pryde. This is ground zero. And it's a great introduction. It's a great remembrance. And it's just a great story. So I really hope you'll check it out someday. And until then, I want to give a shout out. I want to give a special shout out to Mr. Matt Rumpf. And also a shout out to Jojo Anthony.
Jojo Anthony.
Thank you guys so much for your comments and feedback. Really love hearing from you guys. And anybody else out there who's listening would really love to hear from you too. Always appreciate the feedback. Tell us how you think we're doing. Tell us how you think we can improve. If there's an issue in your past that meant a lot to you, that stands out in your mind, that maybe you'd like to hear us talk about, drop us a line. Tell us what it is. I'll look in the boxes, see what I can find, and maybe we'll chat about it. But until then, I'm Vicky Sebring.
And I'm Scott Sebring.
And this has been My Comic Crush. My Comic Crush is a production of Sebring Arts. Executive producers Vicky Sebring and Scott Sebring. Sound production and theme music by Scott Sebring. Special guest provided by Blackmail and Shameless Baking. For more episodes in this series, you can visit our website at mycomiccrush.com or find us on iTunes, Podcast Republic, or wherever fine podcasts can be found. That's all for now, so go out and read something.